Welcome back, welcome back. Young pop stars are more frequently depicted as fame seekers in pursuit of hedonistic success than they are as socially conscious feminists. One woman who dares to be different is singer-songwriter Kate Nash.
Everybody thinks that girl's so fine. Everybody's like, I'll make her mine. Everyone thinks she's a bit of alright, but I think that she's not so nice. Every guy's looking in her eyes. Every guy's checking out her thighs. Everyone thinks that girl's a lady, but I don't. I think that girl's shady.
Kate Nash in action. And Kate's here right now. Welcome, Kate.
Hi.
And what, in fact, inspired you in the first place to be a feminist? Is there a moment of conversion? Is there a...
The first thing I remember really was walking into rooms and there being like 12 men in a room and just me being the only girl. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's unusual. And then that opened my mind, I think, a lot to the fact that there are just far less women in the music industry. And then being treated, I think, very differently by the media, and then men are, like, as a woman, sort of opened my mind to it. And it just became, as I realised as well, that sort of there's a lot of young girls that look up to me and are fans of my music. I feel a responsibility towards them to sort of stick up for girls, I guess.
That's a very exciting story. Tell me, when did you realise that you had this unique talent as a singer and as a songwriter, and which of the two came first?
Well, excuse me. I guess I was always sort of singing and around the house when I was a kid, and we had a piano which I started getting lessons and playing a lot and did grades. So I always had a real interest in music, and but then I did write songs, but I never really liked any of them. Right. And it was it was about when I was about 18, I did a 2-year, well, I did at 16 I did a 2-year theatre course, and I wanted to act, and then when I finished the course I tried to get into university and various drama schools, and I got rejected from everywhere. And I got my final rejection letter on the same day that I went to see Brokeback Mountain in the cinema, which was kind of depressing sort of message, like, and then I fell down the stairs and broke my foot, all in one day, and I was pretty upset about it. And my mum and dad bought me a guitar because I was sort of locked up in the house for a month, and I think I was working at Nando's at the time, and sort of was like, oh, I don't really have any future prospects. And my mum and dad always said, you know, that we had to work hard at school, because if we didn't, we'd end up working in a really rubbish job. And I was like, I did work hard at school and I'm still in a rubbish job and I don't really know what I'm going to do. And I just got really bored, and I decided I was going to start writing songs again, and I was going to be myself and try and be like more of an individual rather than trying to fit into anyone else's shoes. And that's sort of when I really started to enjoy the music I wrote.
Yeah. And does it help if you're writing love songs to be in love?
I think, like, for example, when I wrote Foundations, I was really young when I wrote that song, and I'd never really been in a serious relationship, but I sort of had ideas about love, and I'd had serious relationships with friends and other people in my life, and that I think you can feel that, like, I think you can feel things at a really young age. You can sort of feel like you're in love. And then you might sort of get into a different relationship and think, oh, actually, I think this is love.
Is more the real thing.
This is more the real thing, and I don't know what that was, but I definitely felt like it was real at the time, you know.
Yeah. And that was when the love songs, the songs and the love came along. Do you have a sense of, in the years that you've been writing songs and so on and singing them, that your style of writing or your style of singing has grown or changed?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. With the second record, I feel like there was a progression, and now I've been writing my third, and I almost feel like my third record is a blend of the first and the second in a way, like, because I think as you get older, you just become a little bit more comfortable with yourself, and you sort of explore different things with songwriting, and I just feel like I know what kind of artist and what kind of musician and writer that I want to be now.
And how about the pressures of fame and so on? You had this marvellous phrase that you said about that in 2008 you'd had a proper breakdown. I don't know what the difference between a proper one is and not a real one. An improper breakdown. Yeah. But that was a blow, and was that an effect of the strain of the job?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it was an insane amount of pressure. I was really young. I'd never done anything like that before. I'd never been exposed to anything like fame. I don't even really feel comfortable using the word fame, actually. But it's not in my family background or anything, so it was all very new to all of us, and there was just a lot going on, and I was just sort of, it came very quickly, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone could sort of get through that without it affecting them emotionally, unless they were a robot. Yeah. So I think it's just sort of like human reaction, and that's why I sort of took a step back, and I've always made decisions, I think, with my career that I want to protect myself and I want to protect my life, and I'm not interested in being a celebrity. Like, it just doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. Like, I want to be a musician and an artist, and I want to enjoy travelling, like we're saying, and
yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, although you can't really be a musician and an artist and big audiences without
no, exactly. But you
having celebrity.
But you can control it, because like I don't sort of. There's different ways of playing out your career, I think. You know what I mean? There's certain things that you don't have to do, because it feels like there's certain things that you get offered that are like just for the sake of getting attention. Whereas I always like to do things that I think have artistic integrity, or there's a reason I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it or interested in it, you know.
The thrust of the message of the new album, the third album, will be different to the first two? Will you have moved on a stage or two, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing a lot of bass. I started playing in a punk band a couple of years ago, and I learnt to play bass, kind of. I just picked it up and sort of figured it out, and I really enjoy playing the bass because it feels like a really strong instrument, and you can sort of play around with melody quite a lot. And I guess I think I have addressed more, lyrically, I've addressed sort of the idea of, you know, being a feminist and sexism in this record, and then again talked about friendship and love and relationships and anything else that's sort of going on in my life. But yeah, I definitely feel like there's a bit more of politics going on in this record.
Right, a bit more of that. Oh, that's fascinating. Well, it's lovely to talk about all of this, and I hope you'll come back again soon.
Oh, I'd love to.
Thank
you so much for having me.
It's been great, Kate.
Cool.
Thanks a million, and good luck with the next album. That'd be a good time to talk again.
Thank you.
It may be a little early to turn to Afghanistan's 2014 presidential race, but one candidate is already capturing the imagination of many Afghans. Determined to rise above death threats and prejudice, Fawzia Koofi hopes to become Afghanistan's first female president. She currently sits as a deputy speaker in the Afghan parliament and has long been an advocate of human rights in the country, focusing particularly on the rights of women and children. But can any woman garner sufficient support in such a male-dominated society? Is Afghanistan really moving in the right direction? And what would happen should the Taliban return to power? Well, Fawzia is here right now, and welcome.
Thank you.
It's very good to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
With these negotiations going on at the moment and so on, three-way negotiations and so on, do you think there's any danger that the government of Afghanistan and the United States would agree to Taliban sharing power? And would you?
The recent attempts by the United States to establish, to help Taliban establish the office in Qatar, in Doha, and the so-called peace process, which was initiated by the Afghan government 2-3 years back, put a lot of uncertainty among the Afghan public in terms of what's going to happen. In 2014, when the international community withdrew, which is a need, not an option.
A need until 2014 or a need beyond 2014?
A need beyond 2014. So there is a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen in terms of sharing of power. Now, one thing should be clear, that Taliban don't want to share power. They certainly would like to run the country and rule the country. They have always been presenting three conditions in terms of, you know, peace and reconciliation. One of the conditions is to have an Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan. Right now we have an Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, and according to the constitution, this is an Islamic Republic. Taliban want their own constitution and an Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan constitution. So there is a lot of fear, especially among women and among the human rights and democracy activists, that things will go back to what it was before 2001. Now, I personally think that things will not go as worse as it was in 1996 when Taliban first came, because back by then many people supported Taliban. They didn't know who Taliban were. Some people regard them as agents of peace, some people regard them, they are the one who will secure the country by then, but now people know the actual face of Taliban. They know that under the name of Islam they basically try to impose their own ideology over Afghanistan, and certainly there will be a lot of opponents in Afghanistan against Taliban.
When you said there about who the Taliban are, it's an interesting thing, because a lot of people would say, well, we don't know who the Taliban are. Who are they?
It's a very interesting question. We know who they are in terms of their ideology, their view, because as somebody who lived in Afghanistan the whole of my life, but basically during Taliban, I know they're a group of people who have a misinterpretation of Islam. They try to mix Islam with tradition and impose the very extreme form of Islam over Afghanistan, and basically over women of Afghanistan. In Islam, the basis for a human being is education. They stop women from going to school and education. So how can they claim that they are agents of peace and agents of religion if they deprive 55% of the society, which is the woman, from their basic rights? So we know who they are in terms of their ideology, but when it comes to do we know who are we talking on behalf of Taliban? Do they really have one representative that we talk to them?
And are there in fact women, Afghan women, present at these talks that are going on, based in Qatar and so on, these negotiations, the triangular negotiations? Are there any women taking part?
You know, Afghanistan has signed the 1325 resolution of peace and security for women, the Security Council resolution. According to that, Afghan government is responsible to ensure that there are women participation in all the processes. But the thing with the Qatar discussion is that this is basically led by American at this stage. So the Afghan government and its institutions like the parliament and women and civil society is not included. And so when we are not included, the easy thing is we express doubt and concern over the process. When you don't know what's going on and when things are not certain and transparent, the easy thing is to criticize it. That's why we believe that there should be a comprehensive and inclusive peace process. All institutions, including civil society, including Afghan parliament, including women of Afghanistan, should be involved. Now, there are women in the Peace Council. There is 9 women out of 71 members of the Peace Council, which seem to be kept marginalized from the main decision-making process. They seem to be like a symbol there. We really want a true representation of women because they are the main victim of any changes in Afghanistan.
Right, and tell me something. Have you seen, in fact, in the lives of sort of ordinary Afghans, have you seen a real improvement in living standards since the Taliban originally left and since the United States has been involved and so on, and the rest of the world? Have you seen the standards of living in Afghanistan rise at all?
Of course, there is huge changes. You cannot compare the current situation to the Taliban. Now the Afghan government institutions are established. You have a parliament, you have civil society, which is dynamic in many occasions. Children go back to school, people are working, women are working. You see in Kabul buildings are raising every day. Things have changed. The fact that when I was a child, my struggle was to go to school. but now my daughter's struggle is to go to the best school. So it's a matter of choice.
Yes, yeah.
It is a progress. The fact that I'm sitting here today with you explaining the situation of Afghanistan is a progress. But I think comparing...
And for instance, I read that the 5,000 women who, or girls who originally went to school, the figure now is 2.5 million.
It's right now there are 7 million children who go to school, out of which 40% are girls. So 2.23 million children or girls go to school. But there is a matter of quality of education, safety of the girls, because many occasions Taliban actually threw acid on the girls students. There is a matter of accessibility because some children have to walk 2 hours to get to school. That's a different. When I was a child, many parents will not allow their girls to go to school. But now the parents allow the girls to walk for 2 hours to get to school.
Do you think the Afghan people have got to the stage of development where they could elect a woman president?
I divide Afghan population in two sides. Right. One side is the progressive part of the society, who are pro-democracy, who don't want to go back to the dark period of Taliban or civil war. They would like to, have the basic standards of life, like many other people in the world. They want to enjoy freedom of speech, democracy, institutions to function. I think this part of society lack a strong leader who could represent them. They are the silent majority of the society. That part of society want a change in their leadership. And that if that change result having a woman president, I think they are ready for it, because even in the parliamentary election, there were many men who voted for me as parliamentarian. But in the meantime, there is another part of society which is conservative, which is traditional, being led by traditional leaders. And certainly they don't want to change. They believe any change, they will lose power. And especially when that change results having a woman as a leader, they will certainly lose power. Now that part of society is everywhere, in the government, outside the government. They control the economy, they control social structures. So what I have is my messages and my people. And I trust my people for that.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely fascinating glimpse, and more than a glimpse there, of where Afghanistan may be going. Thanks a million.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Fawzia Koofi there. And her new book, The Favoured Daughter, One Woman's Fight to Lead Afghanistan into the Future, is out now. The Greek financial tragedy continued this week as a war of words broke out between Germany's finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, and the Greek president, President Papoulias. I cannot accept that my country should be reviled by Schäuble. I cannot accept this as a Greek. That's what the president said. Who is Mr. Schäuble to insult Greece? Who are the Dutch? Who are the Finnish? Meanwhile, a decision by Eurozone ministers on the next Greek bailout has been delayed until Monday, and there are increasing voices in Athens that default is not only likely, but more desirable than the austerity demanded by the Eurozone. So what next? I'm joined now by Vasilis Leontitsis of the Hellenic Observatory at the LSE, the London School of Economics. Welcome, good to have you. Now, before coming on to that, tell us the latest story of life in Greece. You've been there, you went there a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And were the strains of the economy showing in people's lives a lot?
Yes, absolutely. I left Greece to come to London in August, so I hadn't been in Greece since last August, and I went back 2 weeks ago. I was in Athens, Corfu and Rhodes, and actually the difference was astonishing in the way people lived, and the way people talked about the crisis as well. Now they don't necessarily talk about the crisis as something alien, It is something that is happening to them. People that I knew have less and less money to spend. They have cut down their expenses. They don't go out. They buy less food. So actually people experience the crisis big time at the moment in Greece.
Is it possible, for instance, some people say maybe Greece can default, and yet at the same time maybe we can find a way of staying in the zone? That's one possibility. The other possibility is that the people who are trying to keep Greece, the three countries and so on, trying to keep Greece in the Eurozone, are really wanting to get it out of there. I mean, what's the general feeling on that?
Well,
what is the future for Greece?
Well, the general feeling is that actually the other Eurozone members want Greece in. At least this is the majority of them at the moment. Because the biggest fear is that if Greece leaves, then more countries might leave as well, the domino effect. And if Greece goes, Portugal goes, then possibly Spain goes, or Italy, and then the Eurozone collapses. So it is for their interest to keep Greece within the Eurozone.
Yes, I can see that, but the people who don't think it is say, listen, Greece is only 2.5% of what we're worried about. You know, we can get rid of Greece, clear out that problem, and it won't have any effect at all. But you're saying it will. It will have a domino effect.
Well, there is a possibility, and this is the big issue. Nobody exactly knows what is going to happen if Greece goes. So that's why it would be preferable for most people to have Greece in.
And I mean, there's supposed to be an election in April, right?
Yes.
What will happen then, do you think?
Well, we still don't know exactly when the elections are going to take place. It is possible that they're going to take place in April. What the opinion polls suggest is that the Socialist Party, the party that won the previous elections, is going to suffer. The latest opinion polls give it just above 10%, when in the previous elections it won 44% of the votes.
And so who's going to benefit, the Conservatives or?
Well, the Conservatives benefited up to recently, but since they joined the coalition government and signed the austerity measures, they have started losing out as well. So there are fringe parties that they have actually gained lately, and we have observed the radicalization of the Greek political system. So parties at the far right and the far left are faring quite well in the opinion polls at the moment.
Can you see Greece emerging from this depression? And if so, how long will it take?
Well, we need to be optimistic, right?
Yeah.
I believe that Greece is going to emerge out of the depression at some point, but it's not going to be in the short term, because whether it defaults or not, whether it stays within the Eurozone or it leaves the Eurozone, there are a lot of reforms that need to be taken, a lot of hardships that the Greeks need to go through before there's some growth in the country once again.
And so for people who are thinking about this summer maybe going to Greece, will they find prices and things like that way down, or because of shortages will they have gone up?
Well, I don't expect the prices to really go down. Greece has become more expensive since it entered the Eurozone, and this is a problem for both the tourists and the people that live in Greece alike. I believe that the prices are not going to really go down unless Greece leaves the Eurozone and its new currency devalues. But I don't really see this happening.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Good luck and Godspeed and all of that. That's all we have time for this week. My thanks to all of my guests, a varied group as ever. Join me again in 7 days' time for another edition of Frost Over the World. Goodbye for now.